Now, you've done a lot of, obviously with your job, you've done a lot of traveling and done a lot of cheerleading for the state. Vermont has a number of products, from maple syrup to even something as simple as skiing. Now, when you show those Vermont products around the world, what sort of is the reaction to that, and how can Vermont really build on that brand?
Well, we do. Vermont is recognized as a state that greatly values our environment, has a reputation for being a great place to live, and people that have a great commitment to protecting our environment. And that translates into attracting people to come here from all over the world, either to go to one of our wilderness areas or go to one of our ski areas or enjoy our vast trails, our snow machine trails across our state. People are traveling for a myriad of reasons, and they're coming to Vermont to tap into our history, tap into have an experience with nature, and also when they buy a Vermont food product, when they buy a specialty food product or a dairy, something from our dairy sector, or as you mentioned, sugar making. From our maple syrup. I am a sugar maker. We have a sugar woods in northern Vermont, and so I understand there are opportunities for us to continue to promote Vermont. But in addition to that, Chris, Vermont is also a state that has a real leadership position in a number of other areas. As an example, when I talked to the vice president of Boeing Aircraft, who buys $9 billion worth of components for the Boeing aircraft, I say Vermont is a state that's known for maple syrup and dairy products, great dairy products. But when I explain commercial aviation and general aviation and aerospace manufacturing, as an example, Vermont Circuits, G&S Precision, Bradford Machine, they represent $2 billion of economic activity to our state. So the aerospace sector is another growing, very important sector in the state of Vermont. Right up the road in Springfield, Vermont is Lucas Industries. They design and fabricate components for aircraft. Over the mountains, on the other side of, in Bennington County, Vermont Composite, Plaisant, a little bit up the road, Goodrich Aerospace, and General Electric in Rutland, they make components for aircraft. So Vermont's a high-tech state also. We produce the Northwind 100 at Northern Power. An outstanding cutting-edge wind turbine that sources components from southern Vermont. Wiring harnesses that are made in southern Vermont go into those Northwind 100. So there's a lot of people doing some amazing things in our state, and all over places I've been, in Cuba and China and Quebec, all over our country. People have an appetite for Vermont products. Not just great food products, but other manufactured products. And it's a great story to tell. It's an easy story to tell about the workmanship and the quality of products that are fabricated and produced, designed in Vermont.
Now, you mentioned high-tech jobs. Now, it looks like that and green jobs, renewable energy sources, is probably going to be the wave of the future when it comes to creating and expanding new jobs. It's something Massachusetts has been talking about. So how are we in Vermont going to compete with states like Massachusetts that have already been on the forefront of green technology?
For 7 years as a lieutenant governor, I've been talking about a thing I call the Green Valley Initiative, and that's to do exactly what you're talking about, is to have Vermont stake out a rightful place in a emerging green economy. Vermont and a number of areas, and I could share with you a number of companies. I'll give you an example that's a little maybe counterintuitive. Energizer in Bennington, Vermont makes hearing aid batteries. It's the only facility in the world that makes hearing aid batteries with zero mercury. That's a green company, in my opinion. That's an amazing success story that was done in collaboration. Energizer, the people in Bennington County, are producing what I would call green hearing aid batteries, zero mercury-free hearing aid batteries. Clean Earth Technologies in Ferrisburg, Vermont, took space technology that was developed in the Apollo space program in Goodrich used to be Simmons Precision, and they took that space technology that used to look for oil or water in some of the fuel in the Apollo program, and now they look for oil in groundwater. And this Vermont company is helping people all over the world, in China and all other places, to clean up polluted groundwater site using Vermont developed technology. As I mentioned, Northern Power, Barre, Vermont, buying components from all over Vermont, southern Vermont. I was a part of helping them to sell 40 wind turbines up in Alaska. We just toured those 40 wind turbines all through western Alaska, and we're in the process of marketing a follow-on sales. NRG in Heinsberg, Vermont, they're the world leader in wind measurement for wind turbines. Earth Turbines in Williston, Vermont. There's a long list of Vermont leaders that participate in the green sector, and there's additional opportunities. But it's really going to take Montpelier to do its part. Taxes are a part of anybody who manufactures products or delivers services, so we just need to be mindful of our overall level of taxation, and our regulatory environment are a part of that. So these are opportunities, but it's also going to require the legislature do its part to acknowledge that people competing globally have some very thin margins, and there are opportunities, but we need to do our part in Montpelier to make sure that they can be competitive. No, I will say that, we just had this group here, and I have a list of ideas. We talked about education funding. We talked about some opportunities for Vermont to help with some lending, maybe to fill a backstop and some lending possibilities to help small businesses. I've made a list here of pretty good ideas. Some more collaboration in terms of marketing for tourism. The fact that Mount Snow in particular is the first major ski area if you're coming from Connecticut or the New York markets, and with some work with the state, perhaps we could work more collaboratively together. The cost of power is something I've heard a lot about. I know that Vermont Yankee was another issue that was raised. It's really Vermont Yankee, when we're talking about its future, safety needs to be the #1 consideration. But with that said, the 650 jobs and the fact that a number of the people that I met with today say the cost of power and the predictability of that cost going forward is also important. So, that's another. As I look at my list, Chris, that's another thing that I have heard loud and clear from the people that have reached out to me, and that came, that I've either visited or heard from. And I also, from listening to David Dunn, the chair of the high school board chair, he talked about the collaborative process that they put together with the school and the education community and various stakeholders. Made some difficult decisions, made some decisions that he thinks allowed Vermont to, is going to allow the school board to move forward and strike that common ground between taxpayers that are maxed out and also the commitment that we have to educate the next generation. So it was fascinating to hear David talk about the process that led them to a budget solution that they think is going to work for them. One of the reasons I'm here is we are at a tipping point in the legislature. Last legislative session, the legislature chose to impose their budget for the first time in our history. They increased taxes. There are forces, and it's critically important, in my opinion, where we are in the legislative session, that we understand that small businesses are literally, in the words of some people, hanging on by their fingernails, and we in Montpelier need to understand that, and we cannot afford to make that situation any more difficult and put more stress on our small businesses. And that's what I'm hearing from the people that I've met with, and I'm going to take that guidance, that though that firsthand, looking people in the eye, take that back to the legislature and share what I've heard in Brattleboro.